The new Jeffrey Epstein news about how the government is now reverting all of their claims that Jeffrey Epstein might have not killed himself over suicide were just 2 days ago. They said undeniably, that Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. And it's found that the video was edited through metadata. What does all this say? Is it saying that the government's getting sloppy? I think they could have been sloppy all along. I really think the difference is that the public is getting access to technology that they didn't have in the past. And I'm not talking about, little events that the government was coming up somewhere halfway across the world in some, crap hole country. But with that being said, I'm talking about events in United States history that changed the course of history as we know it, such as 1963 JFK assassination, 9/11, all that good stuff. Those are mainly the two events I was talking about the most, but there's a lot of more events that actually would change the course of American history, but we didn't have the technology back then that we have today to necessarily review the government's work and call out their crap, which we're now doing today. People are finding the metadata saying that they put that bad boy into Adobe Pro and kind of clipped them up. Some good old-fashioned editing. They probably just hired a bum off the street, probably could have edited better. But without that being said, what my point is that there's a pattern going on. Which to say that if the government's not trying to cover this stuff up now, that they haven't been trying to cover it up in the past. And just nobody's realized it because we didn't have the technology to. Back 9/11, wire transfers, money transfers, all this crazy, people think they're conspiracy theories. Well, now the new Epstein stuff, where they're just blatantly covering it up to a point to where it's just obvious, they're just not saying it. It just adds an extra layer of evidence per se to your argument that the government's been doing this all along, especially back in 1968 when it was the peak of these three-letter organizations getting out of control, just doing stuff like Operation Northwood and stuff like that, where they're literally planning domestic terrorism. Was not to say that they were covering stuff up back then, but the U.S. Public did not have the available technology to call them out on their crap. So I think the Jeffrey Epstein obviously just says a lot about our society and about the government as of currently, but really just more about the government, not about the society. But really what it says is it provides a sort of perspective lens on the government and these three-letter organizations that weren't available in the past. There probably is a pattern going on. This isn't a first-time gig. These guys aren't too worried about it. So I'm going to say that they've definitely done some cover-up business in the past, but they've never really just been pushed this hard because of the new available technology to the public and these big, huge, historic events. Not only like everybody's gonna focus on these small events, like I said, that happen in some country halfway across the world, but everybody's worried about these big events like 9/11, JFK assassination, stuff that has very well respected conspiracy theories, and visualized that the government has had some sort of cover-up action in there. Well, just now that it is finding that most likely the government did cover up Jeffrey Epstein, and probably they had some sort of cover-up in all these other things as well. So really what all the Jeffrey Epstein thing does is really just adds another layer of evidence onto the supposed cover-ups of the United States of America governments and these related organizations. With that being said, stay safe and stay hydrated.